Now let's take a look at the SSL channel's routing options. By routing options, I mean being able to put the EQ before or after the compressor and split the filters to be before the compressor, using the EQ as a sidechain to EQ the detector on the compressor and expander. Let's take a look. In the standard setup on an SSL console, signal comes into the channel, hits the dynamic section first, and then it feeds out into the filters and EQ section and then heads on out via this fader. You might want to change that sometimes, though. One thing you might want to do is if you've got some low rumble, maybe a loud low rumble, an outdoor recorded track or something, you don't want that affecting your compressor. You don't want your compressor reacting to that. You want your compressor reacting to the audio. So to do that, you click on the split button, and that puts the filters ahead of the compressor, so the signal comes in, hits filters, then goes through dynamics, then goes through EQ. Or another thing you might want to do is have your compressor after the EQ. So if you're doing some radical EQing, let's say you're boosting a ton of 50 on the bass guitar, which makes the bass guitar when he's up high on the neck or on the higher strings sound great, but then when he goes down and hits that low fifth string right near 50 hertz fundamental, whoa, that's loud, taking over the room. Well, you could automate the EQ, that's true, or you could put the compressor after the channel out, or after the EQ's channel out, and click on channel out. So then the signal will come in, go through the EQ first, then the compressor, and you could use the compressor to set the threshold so it doesn't do much to regular notes, but when you get down there on that fifth string and the 50 hertz area fundamental notes, then it will pull those back. That also gives you the impression of having 50 hertz, lots of low end all the time, no matter where he is on the neck, so your bottom doesn't drop out when he's moving around. But then when he actually hits that low end, you can adjust this baby to get it just right. So that's what you might want to do. Third thing you might want to do is to have a sidechain. That's what our button here, Dynamics Sidechain. So it's EQ to Dynamic Sidechain. What would you use that for? Well, if you want to compress something that's got like a lot of bass in it, let's say you've got a loop that's got a major kick in it. Every time the kick hits, it sucks all the volume out of the track and sucks the energy out of the kick because the compressor's reacting to that loud kick. You could EQ out all of the low end of that compressor and then say dynamics to sidechain, and that loop, the compressor won't hear much bass anymore, the detector that detects what to do, and it won't do much compressing. That's kind of what you want there. You could also use it for de-essing. So you have a vocalist that's kind of hot on the essing. That's what we're going to demonstrate here. We've got a vocalist that's kind of hot on the essing. Let's take a listen to her for a second.
I'm chasing you, chasing after me.
Kind of a lot of S's, more than we'd like. So what we got to do is take out of the detector the regular signal, all her voice except the S's. So let's go ahead and EQ her.
I'm chasing you, chasing after me. I'm running after endless streets.
Maybe take a little bit more of this mid stuff out.
I'm chasing you.
And then we might want to boost the frequency of her annoying S, which is about 7 kilohertz, real narrow. Really find that exact
I'm
S.
chasing you, chasing after.
So now we've got a lot of annoying S's going to this detector. As soon as we click this dynamics to sidechain,
I'm chasing you.
EQ's back out of the path now. We're not hearing audio going through the EQ. We're hearing un-EQ'd audio because we use the EQ for another purpose. It's no longer in the signal path. We don't hear that harsh.
I'm chasing.
We don't hear that anymore because that's now sent to the detector, and our signal going through the channel bypasses the EQ altogether.
I'm chasing.
Now that it goes through the detector, let's set our attack to fast. Ratio 5:1 is good, and we'll adjust our threshold until we get a good amount of de-essing. So here's no de-essing.
I'm chasing you, chasing after me.
Turn that thing up.
I'm chasing you, chasing after me.
You can see we can definitely overdo it there.
I'm chasing you, chasing after me.
Well, that's how that works. We can use that EQ'd signal to not compress our voice, only compress the S's, which is really what de-essing is. One final thing, while we're in this mode of sending the EQ to the sidechain, splitting the filter is interesting. What happens to the filters? If we send them pre-compressor, which is what the split button does, that also takes them out of the EQ circuit that's sent to the sidechain, right? It splits them so they become part of the dynamics area in the SSL designer's mind. So that means we're going to hear this radical bass cut if we click on split while dynamic sidechain is engaged. Let's listen.
I'm chasing you, chasing after me.
These are now in the audio path.
I'm running after endless dreams.
Well, you could use it, it may be useful that way, but it's just good to know that you can split it.